Today, we're diving into a literary genre that's all about, well, how to lie beautifully. It's called the Maqama, and it's this incredible look at how masterful language can be the ultimate tool for survival. So, let's get into the secrets of these eloquent tricksters.
So let me ask you a question. Picture this. You are brilliant. You're super educated. You've got a razor-sharp wit. And your command of the language? It's just second to none. The only problem? You are flat broke. What do? Well, back in the 10th century Arab world, they cooked up a pretty ingenious answer to that exact problem. They invented a whole new way of telling stories. This kind of short, roguish little tale known as the Maqama. And trust me, it's brilliant.
Okay, so at the absolute heart of every single Maqama is this fascinating character. He's this lovable, super eloquent trickster, and his story plays out in a very specific way.
Here's the basic setup, right? You've got your hero, this incredibly charismatic, educated wanderer who basically lives by his wits. Then there's our narrator, usually some kind of merchant, who's traveling from city to city and just keeps bumping into this same trickster, but in all these different disguises. The plot is this wonderfully repeatable loop. Our hero pulls off a clever scam using his beautiful words, the narrator finally realizes who he is, and then, just as he's caught, the trickster gives a slick justification and poof, he vanishes, on to the next town.
So where did a genre like this even come from? Well, you really can't get the Maqama until you understand the world that created it, a time that was both dazzlingly brilliant and in a deep, deep crisis.
You see, the Maqama was literally born from a paradox. It's the product of an era that was hitting a massive cultural peak and a pretty serious societal decline all at the same time.
We're talking about the 10th century Abbasid Caliphate. Intellectually, it's the Islamic Golden Age, a total hub for scholars, poets, and scientists. But behind the curtain, the empire was starting to crack. This socioeconomic decay was creeping in, and that created a very particular kind of problem.
This crisis gave birth to a whole new kind of person, the highly educated but totally broke intellectual. These were literally artists who got pushed out of their cushy jobs and literally onto the streets. And to survive, they had to turn their one great asset, their eloquence, into cold, hard cash, performing in markets and mosques for anyone who'd listen. And this real-life person? He became the direct inspiration for our trickster hero.
Okay, so how do these scams actually work? The real genius of the Maqama isn't just the plot, it's how the story is told. It's an absolute masterclass in linguistic irony.
Let's just walk through the formula. Our narrator rolls into a new town. He sees this huge crowd gathered around some spellbinding speaker. Sometimes he's disguised as a holy man, maybe a great warrior. And this guy's speech is so beautiful, so moving, people are just showering him with money. But then, wait a second, our narrator recognizes that clever turn of phrase. It's him, the trickster. He confronts him, our hero gives some witty excuse, and poof, he's gone. Now, the real secret weapon here is the language itself. The Maqama is written in something called saj, which is rhymed prose. It has this pulsing, rhythmic quality that's incredibly persuasive. Think of it like a powerful, poetic sermon. Historically, this style was associated with the absolute highest form of truth, like divine revelation in the early Quran. But in the Maqama, this sacred style gets hijacked by our scammer to tell the most elaborate and entertaining lies. And this isn't just a simple joke, it's a deep commentary on a society where people were getting skeptical of authority. When everyone is using the language of truth, who do you actually trust? The Maqama says, maybe you trust the artist, the one who can perform the most beautiful lie. The form itself becomes the message.
So what does our hero think about all this?
Well, this quote from Abu Zaid, the main character of the most famous Maqamas, says it all. He values his freedom, his independence, more than anything. He'd much rather be a clever vagabond than be tied down to some stuffy, inconvenient job. He's the master of his own destiny, even if that means living hand to mouth. Now, like any great art form, the Maqama wasn't just the work of one guy. It was really shaped by two literary giants, one who came up with the whole thing and another who basically perfected it. They're really the two pillars of the entire genre. Each one left a huge mark, and it's cool to see how the first innovator really paved the way for the master who followed. It's that classic story, isn't it? You have the innovator, the one who breaks new ground, and then you have the master who comes along and builds a cathedral on that foundation. So let's break down their contributions, because this is super important.
First up, we have Badi el-Zaman al-Hamadani, whose name means the wonder of the age. He's our inventor. Around the year 1000, he took all these raw ingredients and created something totally new. His stories are brilliant, but they're a little loose, structurally irregular. Then, about a century later, al-Hariri comes along. He is the perfectionist, a total master of language. He takes al-Hamadani's idea and just formalizes it. His 50 maqamas are incredibly consistent, perfectly structured, and they push the language to its absolute limit. Al-Hariri's work became the gold standard, the textbook example of the genre for hundreds of years.
But the story of the Maqama doesn't just stop in the Middle East, not even close. This unique genre went on an incredible journey and ended up influencing literature all across the world.
Scholars now call the Maqama a pre-romance genre. And I know, that sounds kind of boring, but it's actually way more exciting than it sounds. Romance here doesn't mean love stories, it means early forms of long-form fiction. And you can see the Maqama's DNA all over what came next. With its episodic stories about a wandering, lower-class hero surviving by his wits in a corrupt world, well, it's considered a direct ancestor of the Spanish picaresque novel, and through that, a forerunner to the modern novel as we know it today.
I mean, just look at this journey. It starts in 10th century Persia with al-Hamadani. It gets perfected in 12th century Iraq by al-Hariri. From there, it travels all the way to Spain, where it gets adapted into Hebrew literature. And then, fast forward a few centuries to the 1800s, a German poet translates al-Hariri, and boom! This 800-year-old genre suddenly enters the canon of world literature. It's finally recognized for the masterpiece it always was.
And that brings us to one last thought. The Maqama used this brilliant, beautiful style not to prop up the world as it was, but to subtly critique it, right? To poke holes in all its hypocrisy through the eyes of a total outsider. So the question I want to leave you with is this: what modern art forms are doing the exact same thing? You know, think about stand-up comedy or lyrical rap battles or even political satire. Where do we see that same incredible dance between a dazzling form and a subversive message today? It really seems like the spirit of the eloquent trickster is still very, very much alive.